Hello again, Michael Ware with the Iowa Firearms Coalition. We've got Sam with us from Schieuerks. You may have seen him in an earlier episode, and in the link narrative, I'll link to that so you can go watch that. But we're graced with him a second time. I really appreciate your willingness to come on, Sam. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I definitely appreciate you having me on. It was a good time last time, so it's nice to be back.
Appreciate that. So when you and I spoke just a minute ago, just for people listening out there, I have yet to script an Warrior Wednesday episode or any of these recordings, with the exception of our candidate files where we ask all the candidates the same exact questions and let them answer, which I encourage you guys to listen to and check out. There's playlists on YouTube and Rumble, anywhere for that. With that exception, we don't talk about what we're going to say and how we're going to say it. So these interviews are always off the cuff. Yes, as you know by listening, we chase rabbits, and there's plenty of room for that. I think that's good. I joke about that, but that happens to be the truth. So when Sam came on here just a few seconds before we recorded this, and he said, "What are we going to talk about?" I'm like, "Well, we can talk about A, B, C, D, whatever else, and then if we want to chase those rabbits, if we want to run down those trails, we'll do that." So I always appreciate having guests that are willing and enthusiastic about that. So thank you, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to, it's been years ago now, but we did a podcast of our own and we kind of rolled the same way. So it's always fun doing it that way.
Well, I enjoyed listening to those. I hope not to dredge up something you don't wish to speak about, but why'd you stop?
Honestly, it just got to be so much. I mean, you know, as well as anybody, obviously, how much work it is, and just getting the guys together every week or two, and editing it after that, and coming up with stuff to talk about. It just got to be a ton, and we had intentions of going on, but then it was just a couple of us left, my brother and I, and we went on Christmas break with every intention of coming back, and we got to the break and we're like, wow, this is pretty darn nice. And we just never made it back.
That's all right. Well, I would encourage you to revisit if you wanted to. I thought the discussions were pretty good, and I enjoyed that. It seemed like it was bourbon and cigar time too. So I did enjoy that. I'll admit freely.
Yeah, absolutely. We have talked about doing a reunion episode or two, so that may happen eventually.
Well, if you want to do that and collaborate, let me know. Maybe we could get a larger panel on there or whatever else. I mean, you name it. It might be fun to do something like that. I think there's room out here in this, not only for these discussions that you and I are having and what you guys have with yours, but in a collaborative spirit to say, hey, would you guys like to get together in this virtual spot? Bring your own cigar, bring your own bourbon. Let's sit back and let's visit a little bit. I think that there's room for that. If you ever want to do that, or collaborate on that. Maybe IFC needs to do that. Hey, this thing over on the side. Anybody that wants to contact me, we'll loop you in. That could work. I mean, it's fun to consider anyway.
I think that's an amazing idea, actually. And that's one thing that I love about this industry is everybody's always looking to collab and get together. And it's always a good time. So I think that's a fantastic idea.
All right. Well, we'll talk about it offline, see if that's something we can put together. So let me share your site here. Let's do some of that real quick. I'll click a couple of buttons, add to stage. There you go. So for everybody's edification, Schiwerks is right here in Iowa. They're up in the northwest corner of the state, and that makes a difference for local customers. But I'm sure your business is not much different than mine, Sam. A lot of stuff comes in and goes in cardboard boxes. So the logistics don't matter as much anymore. So as I scroll down through this for the people watching and for the people listening, we'll illustrate this as best we can. But tell us a little bit about Schiwerks.
Yeah, so I got started about 9 years ago now, I think. But I've been very blessed. A lot of the stuff I do is themed products. You can see one there. The guy wanted the P-51 Mustang type plane on his gun. And we do a ton of that stuff, DeWalt, Milwaukee stuff. And that's kind of how I got my start, was those themed projects. I always joke that I should have a sign above the door that says the house that Bush built, because that Bush light gun that I did kind of went viral and I got my foot in the door with that. Yeah. So that is the vast majority of my business is custom Cerakote like that. So if you have a crazy idea, I always enjoy doing those. And then two, I'm moving down towards a little bit of if you saw the custom magazines there I went away from that, but I'm getting a little bit more into those and that kind of neat stuff. But yeah, that's the majority of my business is Cerakote and laser engraving and stuff like that. So
it's absolutely tremendous work. As a person who Cerakotes myself, but doesn't have this ability, or even if I did, I'm not sure I would have the patience that it requires to do this with this kind of detail. Sam, you've got tremendous stuff. I like tripping down through. I don't spend as much time on Facebook screwing around as maybe I should for this, but when I happen across your stuff, I'm always thinking to myself, I know what it takes to do that, and I know what kind of effort you have to put forward in order to do this and do this well. So kudos, man. This stuff is absolutely first rate. From one Cerakote to another, you're in the top tier, man. Thank you very much for your work.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. And especially coming from you, I know you personally, and as another guy in the industry, it's always just means a little bit more when you guys really know what it takes to do this stuff. So thank you very much. I appreciate
it. Certainly. I've had a few projects that came in here and they're like, here's what I want. And I'm like, I'll do it, but I'm not sure that I'll be exactly what you want. And I'll probably charge you too much. You should talk to this guy. So every now and then I send somebody your way, like, what do you mean? You're sending me to the competition? I said, well, yes and no. I don't see him quite like that.
Yep.
But this is the guy that you're going to need in order to do what it is you want. So, and I've never heard anybody come back disappointed. So you must be doing very well with customer satisfaction.
Well, I try my best. I certainly appreciate that. And that's, like I mentioned before, this industry, it's interesting because a lot of guys, my friends in the industry that own other shops, they'll send stuff my way, and because that's a theme that I did or something that they're good at, I send their way, and it's really enjoyable. I love that aspect of the industry.
Well, we're talking about the things that we love. In full disclosure, yes, I have a custom gun shop. Sam has the same. So the truth of the matter is, we talk about our successes and we're tickled about those things, but and we're quite willing to share them. I mean, not being braggadocious, just being pride in work and pride in the product, right? Mm-hmm. But why don't you tell us or illustrate to us what your biggest hurdles are? Because we've talked about successes a little bit, and we're showing those in the background. Henry, again, the clampdown is coming on many social media platforms that I'm not able in broadcast to mention domain names any longer, because that might violate somebody's user agreement. It did with YouTube. They kicked us off for several months. Somehow, with a lot of help from a lot of people, we got our account back, which I was beginning to think wasn't going to happen. But if you understand that the word Schiwerks is SCHIWERKS, and you put that in your browser, you're going to navigate there so that you people who are listening can go check out some of this work. But what's your biggest hurdle, or what are your biggest concerns, Sam?
That's a good question. Right now, one of my biggest hurdles is, and I don't know if you're in the same having the same problem, but I'm a single man shop. I have a part-time guy that comes in to help out, and it's hard for me to give away my work to let anybody lay their hands on it. Everything I do, from even to building this entire shop, has been these hands, and I take great pride in that. But at a certain point, my lead time is getting up there pretty high now because of that. At a certain point, you got to make the decision to delegate more of your work to others, and that's pretty hard to do. But as another aspect that's kind of difficult, and you well know, you just spoke about it, is the social media game. And that's been tricky over the years, and it's been interesting to see the flip-flopping on every platform. For a long time, and where I got my start was on Facebook. They were gun friendly. Heck, I'm sure you still remember you could go on the Facebook groups and sell guns, and that was a normal thing. Now that's gone by the wayside a long time ago. And Facebook is really clamping down a lot more now. It's like right now, every single post that I put up, because it has a firearm in it, is flagged automatically. and that they don't do anything. They don't penalize me other than they don't show me to new people. They show me to my followers, and that's it.
Yep.
But the interesting part of that now is Instagram has flipped the other way. So they used to be shadow banning everybody and all that stuff, and now they've opened up gun pages. So we're getting a lot of the reach over on that side of it now. And it's figuring out that side of it, the what's working right now and what's not working and what we're able to do. And just being adaptable is really the biggest thing, because this industry is always changing, from the politics to the styles that people want. And that's I'm just trying to be adaptable and roll with the punches, really.
Well, these things swing back and forth. I mean, you kind of get listen, I don't pretend to know algorithmic changes, their cadence, who's updating and monkeying with things when, whether this algorithm that each individual platform is using changes daily, hourly, weekly, monthly. I don't know, but it's obvious. It's obvious to you and me as people who are using our pages for purposes of putting things out there for the public to consume or to consider, rather than being the public that goes and considers it. There's two different sides of that coin, right? It's obvious to you and me when there's been a change, because everything will be working. We will have acclimated to their expectations. It doesn't matter whether their expectations are crap or not. And they usually are. But I don't know if it's because they don't care or it's because it's just simpler to make a broadcast policy and adhere to it. That's probably it. Because when I occasionally get a hold of somebody high up in one of these places, they'll tell you, no, we're not. And I believe some of them, we're not trying to suppress you. But it ends up, AI and the bots end up finding you like this, and they immediately categorize you or your post as this, and it's hard to get out of jail once you're in it. Well, as I was saying, it's easy to know that there's been a change, because what you and I have adapted to, what we're doing, okay, it appears as if this is the rule that you have, or this is the unspoken way that you want it done, and you and I are adhering to that, and all of a sudden, bang, we're not sharing your page any longer. We've pulled these 8 posts down from the last 2 months because of violation of our rules. I mean, this is what we face on our end. And then you've got to go through and decide, can I manipulate that post to adhere to your new rules, or do I have to pull it down, which kills our circulation? I mean, and then they penalize you for that. I don't know if people know this, but when you edit a post, you immediately get knocked back. It doesn't matter what platform you're on. If you edit it, they don't like it, even if it's to adhere to their policy. So when you edit a post, you're in trouble. If you pull a post down, it kills your circulation. They don't recommend you, and they penalize you for that. So the more posts you remove, the more edits you make, the worse off you are in terms of showing up in front of people. But then they kind of force you into it. It's like they're like, hey, here's what we don't like, maybe. And oh, by the way, if you change it, it'll get worse for you anyway. So this is what Schiwerks is dealing with. This is what I'm dealing with. This is what IFC is dealing with. And it gets worse all the time, not better.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a struggle, and it's a balancing act between, staying true to who I am as a business and a person, and what I'm willing to change as far as what I put out there. Cause I have a morals and values, personally, and in this business that they don't align with, social media don't align with. And if I put those out there, it's going to be squashed. But I think to a certain degree, I've just became more willing, to, I don't care. I think it's more important to put out, certain things, that are important. My faith, the morals and values of what this country was built on. I think it's more important to put those out than it is for me anymore to get a ton of reach. So it's kind of like a balancing act. You know, I gotta toe the line a little bit, but I gotta stand on my values at the same time. So it's and I'm leaning more towards any more of my morals and values and what I want to stand for is a little bit more important. And thankfully, I have been absolutely blessed with this business. You know, if you see in the back, I got crap everywhere. It's busy as heck in here. And so I'm lucky I'm able to do that. But there's other businesses, especially, and I feel for those that are just getting started in this industry. They make it very difficult to get your foot in the door. And thank God that I started back in 2016, 17. You know, it was a little bit friendlier atmosphere back then, and you were able to grow. And thankfully, that's when I started, and I was able to get my foot in the door and go from there.
You know, I think that there's a lot of room probably to help one another. I'm not an NRA board member, but I am a committee member. I've been on clubs and associations committee for, gosh, 8 or maybe 9 years now. And this is my second year now on the grassroots committee. And when I think about these things, I'm like, I look, Facebook's a good example. I can't remember how many followers I had. Let's say it was like 8,000 or something like that. And I wish I could remember because I'd like to thank them, but it was some great big conservative style organization that did, you know, satire and humor, whatever else. I can't remember what it was. But they happened across my page, and like once a week they'd pick some little guy like me, and they tell her that, you know, there are 2 million followers. Go like this guy, help his page out if you're into what he's doing. And the number of my followers doubled overnight.
Oh, wow.
Not because I had appealed to them, because they randomly or happened across me, chose whatever else. And so they did me a solid. They didn't know me, but they did me a solid, right? And I look at it now and I'm like, at that time, it didn't seem like that big a deal because you could gain some speed based on merit. You know, you really could.
Yep.
And now I don't know how you're going to do it. I mean, the only way I can think of is to spend copious amounts of money with them, boosting your ads or boosting your posts so that other people will see them. And I think that's the business model now. Hey, if you want to pick up more people, you got to pay us. And it's their business. I don't own Meta, so I don't get to make any of those dictates. But I wonder if there's some room for that, whether we should encourage some of these big guys out there, because like your business is probably the same as mine is right now. I have a nice following on Facebook as an example. And the reality is none of my posts are being seen by people who don't already like and follow my page. They won't let me out in general circulation. And I'll tell you why. On my particular page, you know what they told me the reason was that they've got me restricted?
Why is that?
My business name violates their user policy.
Controlled chaos. I mean, that seems like a pretty ridiculous reason.
I know. Controlled chaos, and the word arms violates their. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if I change my business name that I've had since 2008, they may or may not reconsider. And it won't matter, Sam. If it's not that, it'll be something else. But right now, they don't allow me to be out in public. You know what I'm saying? So the people who already like it can see it, and that's as far as it circulates, unless somebody shares it. And so I wonder if there's room to organize some of the big guys out there that really have some followings and say, hey, we're going to randomly help elevate the community and this rising tide will lift all the boats. So I hope to maybe organize something like that, because otherwise it's going to be cold, hard cash that does it. And little businesses almost never have that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I would be 100% for that. I would love to do something like that. And also, I think that just like anything, I think that tide's going to turn again. The pendulum is going to swing one way or the other, and things are going to change. And hopefully, it'll change for the better on Facebook. And but as far as helping other businesses in the industry, I think that's vital. Absolutely. It's great because in this industry, and I've said it 3 or 4 times on here, but we're always helping each other out. And there's countless times that I get messages throughout the day from other guys in the industry. Hey, how do you do this? Or what do you think of this? Or asking for advice on something, or a technique on a way to do something. And yeah, if I see those guys, if they're good guys, if they're putting in the work, if they're trying to better themselves and better the industry, I'm absolutely going to help them out. I'll give them little tips or whatever I can do for them, or share their page. So I think that's a fantastic idea, and that's something that we should definitely be pursuing. Especially, I don't have a huge page, but I'm kind of one of the OGs now. I guess I'm getting old. I just turned 41 the other day.
So it's tough being you. Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So I think that's something that we should definitely be looking at.
Yeah, I probably should be writing some of these things down there. I guess I better start taking some notes because I don't want to miss the boat here. So actually, while I do that, literally write that down. Walk me through what comes next for your business, or if you're willing to talk about that.
Well, I think what's coming next is what I'm leaning towards now is, anyways, I just got married. If you see, I got a ring on my hand now, just about a month ago. So
congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. I'm definitely very blessed. But as far as, and the reason I bring that up is I got to work a lot of hours to keep up with demand, and I think now it might be time to start actually growing the business a little bit, and maybe bringing in people to help me to keep up a little bit. That's hard for me to do because of, I'm a stickler for quality, and I want things done the way that I want things done. And that's why I have the reputation that I have. But I think at a certain point, I'm going to have to do that for one, my mental health. It gets a little bit old. But two, just the betterment of my family. Get to spend a little bit more time, a little bit less time at work, and a little bit more time with them. So I think that's in the next year or so, that's going to be the way that I want to be moving a little bit more towards. And if you have been a customer of mine, you know that I have long lead times. For this custom stuff, it's backed up quite a ways, and hopefully we can start getting that down a little bit more, and getting a little bit shorter time for you people that want your guns done to get them knocked out.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier I'd like to go back to, not just because I'm passionate about Christ, but the reality is, I don't know if this is a scenario where these things tend to attract others that are similar or not. But I've noticed, at least I think, and maybe it's just the circles you travel in. Maybe it's you getting pushed a certain direction or pulled another. But it seems as if in the Second Amendment realm, there is far less apology about people's faith than ever before. Are you seeing that, or is this just something that I'm paying attention to that I didn't pay attention to before?
Yeah, I think I mentioned the pendulum swinging. I think it's swinging back a little bit recently, and I'm all for it. I think it's great. And I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but we do a segment here in the shop, a meeting here in the shop once a month, and we call it Whiskey and Worship. So we get together, and if you want to sip on your favorite whiskey or smoke a cigar while we talk about the Bible, that's something that the guys in this community absolutely love. And if you're in the area and you see this and you want to join, everybody's welcome. Come on in. That'd be great. The more the merrier. We find it just opens up. Guys are just a little bit more willing to chat when it's a little bit laid back environment like that, Mm-hmm. But as far as to your question, yeah, I think it's absolutely swinging back a little bit more this way. Society seems to be pushing the other direction harder and harder. And people are wanting something something more. As far as me, I came back in the faith a few years ago. It was just kind of a gradual thing. I was raised in a Christian household, and I just I kind of, you know how it is. I kind of went my own way for a little while, and luckily I was brought back. But there's that people are wanting that. Our society it's so empty. The social media and the fake, and everything's fake, and you get 1 million likes on Instagram. Well, what does that do for you? That's great. You look at it. Oh, that's wonderful. You get a little hit of dopamine, but there's not actually anything there.
Yeah.
And people are wanting the truth, the real, and I think that's why more people are starting to come back to that.
This was so crazy. You may or may not have seen it. I think it was a year ago, Christmas. I had I don't even remember what it was. Some sort of AR, I think, in the vise. And I did a little stupid, almost satirical video of me having a hard time affixing a suppressor to the quick detach, right? And I was like, and I was grunting around and, really hamming it up I'm struggling getting this thing on. A 15-second video, dude. It had no purpose. It had no value. It didn't communicate anything to anybody watching that would help them in any way, shape, or form. It was me struggling and being dumb. Okay. But you post some of that silly stuff out there, just as quick humor, and you go on with your life. Okay. And sometimes just to satisfy people that you need to be in front of, you got to post something so that they keep coming back. That's necessary, right?
Yep.
I did that, and I couldn't tell you for the life of me. I've researched it. I couldn't. I even sicked AI on. I'm like, hey, find out what happened here. Even that came up zeros pretty much. But for some reason that got picked up. The right people saw it at the right times. There was a crack in the door at Meta. Zuck took the day off. I don't know. but it millions and millions and millions of views. I don't remember what it was 3 or maybe 4,000 comments. A really big deal for somebody like me. There are people out there that this is normal. For me, that was a big thing, right? And I was super hustling to try and keep up with all these comments and whatever else. It couldn't be done. I eventually gave up. But I'll tell you what I found about that. Take a wild guess how many orders that translated to. Your wildest guess.
I'm gonna guess not very many.
0.
Yep.
0. Yep. Not one single person inquired about work. Actually, 2 did, but it was the standard. How much? You know what I mean?
Tire kickers. Yep.
Yeah. So when somebody says how much, you're saying, buddy, if you got to ask, you can't afford it. So anyway, it translated to nothing. It was fun. And like you said, it was satisfying for me personally, but it didn't translate into anything. So I sit around there and I'm listening to young folks. My kids are younger, but I have friends that have kids that are older. My wife and I got a late start on this, right? So my daughter's 17, my son's 12. The short version is you'll sit around people that are in their late teens, early 20s, children of these friends, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be a social media influencer. I'm going to be a YouTuber. All you got to do is have one viral video and you're set. And for the longest time, I didn't speak, which is rare for me. I didn't have anything to say about it because I didn't want to crush these kids' dreams, I crush them now. Not with enthusiasm, but I'm like, listen, let me tell you how this works. If you think that you get one viral video and you're set, you're absolutely wrong. One viral video requires you to make another one and another one after that. So what you need to understand is I'm not saying that you shouldn't do this, but if you're truly going to be a social media influencer, or YouTuber, whatever else, it is a tremendous amount of work, more work than you can possibly imagine. If you talk with Mr. Guns and Gear and Pew View, you talk with these guys work night and day. They absolutely hustle all the time. And the minute they let off the throttle, it all goes away and their momentum stops. So I'm not saying you can't do it, but golly, you got to work hard continually.
Yeah, it's definitely a grind. That's something that we're working on right now is, if you had my page pulled up a little bit ago, and a lot of the photos on there, the super high quality, amazing looking ones, that's not me. That's that one right there. That's ballistic imagery. He handles all of my photography and stuff like that. And it's finding the balance between, and this is super interesting. But recently we have found that the fancy, high quality studio looking photos like this, the amazing stuff that he puts out, it generally doesn't get as much reach as the crazy stuff that like you were saying, that crazy 15-second video you posted.
Yeah.
It's just this wild stuff that you don't know what's going to hit and what's not. It's like you're chasing you're chasing smoke. You're chasing something that, it's sometimes you're going to get it and sometimes you're not.
Well, you need these photographs like you have on their site. Again, if you understand, we're talking to Schiwerks here, Schiwerks, sorry, SCHIWERKS. If you put that in your browser, you'll navigate there, and you guys really need to go look at it. And by all means, dedicate a couple minutes to go down through that gallery. It's absolutely amazing stuff. Most of you probably won't have any idea that these things can be done. This isn't some printer. This isn't some film. This is applied in layers over and over and over and done exactly. So it's really, really special work. But you need, I think, these professional photographs to relay over your professionalism.
Yep.
However, at the end of the day, I agree with you. I think some of this, I wouldn't necessarily say nutty, but some of this stuff that makes you and I genuine, that shows that we're real. Our shops are continually a blend of a gun shop and a flea market, having made love and then blown up. I mean, that's real, dude. That's where we operate. That's what we do. Now, I have been in people's shops that are very clinical. Everything has its place. Everything's white. Oil hits the ground and it's immediately cleaned up, but that's rare. Most of us are flying hard and fast and by the seat of our pants to get it all done. So I think there's room, and there needs to be room for us to relay over who we are. And I appreciate that, because sometimes I think that people like knowing, yeah, this guy's shop doesn't look much different than my bench, and I appreciate that,
Yep. Yeah. Mine's an absolute disaster right now. But you're right. People want real. I mean, people want we've traded social media for actual connection to other humans in a lot of aspects of life. And so when you can be real with someone, that's what they're going to want. You have to be the face of your business a little bit, and they want to know who they're dealing with and who they're talking to. So that's a definite requirement, it seems like, anymore in this industry.
Well, sometimes there's room for gags too, dude. I don't know if you ever paid any attention. I got to break him back out or find another one. I probably used him, but I had this stupid little green nitrile glove.
Glovey?
I stuck him on top of a screwdriver, and the fan blows in the background. So he moves a little bit, and then I'll make a noise or make a sound like it's his voice, and I'm essentially talking to myself, which makes it a little bit worse. No, I don't want to be evaluated in terms of mental health at the moment, but it is kind of funny, and you just got to have a little bit of fun, and that's okay. I'm telling you, there's room out here for the humor, and I think that levity means something to people, and it helps. So I'm not saying that I have a mascot in any meaningful way, but I think Glovey's set for a resurgence.
Yeah, I always enjoyed seeing the videos with him in it. I think you're absolutely right. That's the kind of stuff is a little bit needed nowadays.
Yeah. We're talking about mental health. I've got to mention this. It's, you talked about faith earlier. These things are on my heart. So, you share them. That's what I think the value of these podcasts are, the genuine nature of our conversations, right? I talked with a gentleman last week, Michael Sedini. He used to own Eagle Imports. So they did like Llama and Bursa and Mac and all those imports like that, right? And he sold that company, but then he transitioned into bridging the gap between the firearms industry and the Second Amendment community, if you will, and mental health, because people like you and I'm not putting this on you, and I'd like your opinion, but I should rephrase. People like me tend not to talk about mental health and the Second Amendment very much. Not because I don't care. I care a tremendous amount. I try to be very loving in terms of philia, brotherly love. But what I really want to do is try and get myself into what you and I might call agape, into unconditional love. That's much harder. I'm busy looking at things and passing judgments or discernment statements, and I hadn't ought to be, right? But when I think about these things, I don't want to typically talk about mental health because I'm so often vilified for being who I am and what I do. I mean, I've made corporate and personal contributions to places that have sent them back. Yes, I have had checks. Yes, I have had checks returned before. We're like, you're a gun place. Well, we don't want your money. Well, okay. Sorry to hear that, and I will admit freely that stings a little. But these things have happened. So, and then you talk with people who are like, you seem like a really nice person, and we had a great conversation right up until the time when I asked you what you did, and you told me, and it's hard for me to sit here and talk to a baby killer. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I know that you hear, and that people in and around us hear all the time. But it seems like there are becoming pathways to try and talk about these things so that we don't get everybody in Dutch. Because I've got veteran friends that have come forward and said, I would ask for some help with this thing that I've got, but I don't want to risk being labeled, the wrong kind of PTSD, and my rights evaporate before my eyes, and then carrying this stigma around forever. What do you think about some of those things? I mean, do you have an opinion on that? Or are you concerned about those things, or what?
Absolutely. I think that, there's a very real concern of that. Right now, the pendulum is swinging the other way a little bit with this administration. Things have been loosened up a little bit, but you and I know how it was the previous 4 years, and the 8 years of Obama, and it's going to swing back the other way. So yeah, you have to be very careful nowadays what you say. But on the other side of that, it's encouraging because more men specifically are opening up about mental health, and I think that's vitally important. And I brought up the whiskey worship thing that we do here. Mm-hmm. That's getting men in the shop with other men that they're willing to be vulnerable with, and that is huge. That is vitally important, and I think that's something that we need to be pursuing is building those communities where men are willing to talk to other men, and they know that whatever they say in that shop, that's going to stay there, and those men are going to do whatever they can to help him.
Yeah.
And we talked about, we've traded actual community for social media now, and mm-hmm. It needs to be brought back. I think that's what we really need. And people, not just anybody's going to do that. They need someone to take the reins and say, hey man, get in here, let me help, come in and bring them into this kind of environment. And that's what I'm trying to do a little bit in this shop, and using this business to reach out a little bit and to help on those sorts of things. And I would encourage anybody to if there's not already a group in your area, be the man that steps up and starts something. And whether it's just you and a friend, and it might seem awkward at first, man, but just get in there and start doing it. And I think that's going to be something that's going to help a lot of men nowadays, is just getting together, and they're getting together with other men of like mind and helping each other.
Yeah. A gentleman and I, a good friend of mine, tag team a men's ministry. And so we do a monthly men's breakfast at our church on the first Saturday of the month. Everybody rolls in at 8:00. He's already been there working for 2 hours, cooking breakfast for everybody. Sometimes you get 8 people, sometimes you get 40. And it's my contribution is working up the lesson and walking through some things and visiting with the guys. And I'm kind of spearheading that aspect of it. But you're right. It's helpful when you can have that support network in a framework of understanding and also trust, I think. So like you said, you can say these things and then you're not going to find them wandering out in the community. You can talk about the things that plague you, this sin that drags you down, maybe what you struggle with or how you bested something. it's important to be able to have supports, and those are among them. I think that this has been, maybe it's just because of my age or the circles I run in. I'm a too small a sample size to say definitively, but it seems as if that kind of thing has been de-emphasized for long enough, that you're right when you say there's a resurgence. Plus, I couldn't blame it all on this. I don't think that's very fair. It would be nice if I could, but I think that COVID gave us a serious glimpse at what things are like when you're distanced from one another, when you're separated, and when you realign your thinking and you go through this change, and then you're like, wait a minute, that was horrible. That was not a good time in my life. I didn't like being away from people. It's obvious we're better together than we are apart. And oh, by the way, how should I really be reframing that so I'm doing this well rather than simply existing? The idea that I'm not getting, I need to actually get my tinfoil hat so that I could put it on real quick when we do some of these things or talk about these. So I don't actually have it with me. I need to reconstruct it, but I would tell you, I think that we were lied to and manipulated enough, whether everybody thinks that there were wholesale lies or little lies, or whether people think that it was a tyrannical government or just people trying to save us from ourselves. It really doesn't matter. What we can agree on is things didn't go well. And we were given plenty of reason to mistrust others on high that said that they wanted us to be well.
Yep.
When it may not have been that, at least in whole or in part. But the guy sitting beside you at Whiskey and Worship, he's there for the right reasons, most likely. And you might be able to rely on him ahead of a lot of other people. And I've talked to my wife about this before, and I think she really understands it now. I'm like, sweetheart, there are things that I need to say and talk to guys about that don't translate well to women. What does that mean? Yep. And I'm like, that means there was a book, Women are Venus, Men are from Mars, whatever it was, I don't know. But it was so true in that we're different people, we're different entities. And there are things I don't want to involve her in, not to be secretive or withhold from her. But it doesn't translate well, or she might not understand that because we have different, core ideologies and motivators. Men have got to have other men in order to shore each other up and to be strong in what we do.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. It's a big focus in society nowadays. Men and women are biologically different. We think different. We lead different lives. Our lived experience, you and I lived experience is vastly different than females' lived experience and vice versa. So it is absolutely important that, we're talking to guys that can sympathize with us and know, what we're going through and are willing to give us advice that is actually, coming from a place of experience. So I think you're absolutely right.
Well, it's part of it, whether we like it or not. I mean, I'm trying to teach these kids of mine up, in the way they should go, so to speak. And it's tough from time to time. And I think that the world, from talking with my dad before he passed away, I mean, he would tell me, he's like, yeah, you're right, son. It's worse now than it was when I was a kid. I said, well, we just say that because the life experience is enough and we've seen enough suffering and joy that we just say that. He's like, no. He says, I think things are much worse. He said, it's much harder to be a kid. It's harder to be an adult. Mm-hmm. Technology is helpful. And oh, by the way, it's also used in negative ways. And so that makes some of the work exponentially harder. And I think that he's right about that. I'm not playing the victim here, Sam, but I'm saying I think that it's tougher to live out there as a kid right now than it was for me when I was a kid.
100%. I look at some of the stuff that these kids have to deal with. I don't have any kids of my own yet. Hopefully I will eventually. But I have 7 nieces and nephews, and, just watching some of the things that they have to deal with, or, technology and all the stuff that is driven into their brain on a daily basis. When I was that age, I was worried about, what friend I was going to ride my bike to, what their house, and what I was going to do that day, the kickball game or whatever it was. They're living in an entirely different world than us, and that's got to be extremely difficult. And I sympathize for the parents that are having to well, yourself, raise them up in the way that they should go, and that's extremely difficult. I don't know the answer to it. Well, I guess I do. Our faith, God, but yeah, it's a hard question to answer.
Well, the criticism that I have with okay, so if we zoom out for a minute, you'll eventually talk with people that'll tell you, my son or my daughter, my kids were raised in church. They were there on Sundays, Wednesday nights, occasional things here and there, VBS, they went to church camp together. They did all these things. They went through college, whatever else, abandoned their faith. And now they don't even go to church. They're not even involved in their faith in any level. And they're like, we raised them right. It should have been okay. And those people are saying those things because it hurts their heart and they're bothered by it. But I rarely offer them this criticism unless I know them well enough. I think they can handle it. And of course, I try and do these things in a palatable fashion. But one of the biggest concerns that I have with those statements is, at least my personal experience, we tend to raise these kids up so that they can stay with us rather than raise them up so they can go out and explore and do some with some modicum of safety. You know what I mean? So it's like, no, when you hear people say that, I'm like, no, you probably raised them to be in your church sitting beside you in the pew. But you probably, well, as loving as that is, you probably should have considered is, I'm not raising these kids up to live with me. I'm not raising them up to sit beside me in the pew. If they settle in this community and we all come to this church together, whatever else, that's great. That's fine. That'll be maybe a fairy tale. But the reality is I've got to raise these kids up so they can go out in the world and not become worldly. So it's a completely different emphasis, and it's scary because what that means is you've got to turn them loose routinely. I think this is an opinion, but you've got to turn them loose routinely at younger ages to be exposed to things that you don't like. Now, I'm not suggesting nasty things like, trafficking and getting drunk or high or something like that. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, I think Jordan Peterson says routinely, kids learn the most when they do dangerous things carefully. I'm paraphrasing, but something like that. That's kind of the philosophy that I'm raising my kids with, because I need them to go out there and skin their knee a little bit, trip and chip a tooth. It's going to be a learning experience, Sam, whether I like it or not, whether they come back with stitches across their chin or not. That's okay. And I need them to grasp what's going on around them so that they can, fill their faith gas tank so it'll help sustain them, And I question whether we're doing that at all. We do so in the framework that we prefer rather than the framework that's going to become. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that does. And that's a very tricky, it's a tricky thing to do because you can't account for human nature either. Because every child is different. And you look at it, I am one of four, and you look at how we were raised, like I said, in the church Wednesday night, Sunday morning. And that's just how it was. But then when I went to college, I was raised well, but my human nature, I fell to the temptations of the world, and I went about and I did my own thing. And my older brother and sister, they never left the faith. They were raised the same way as I was, but they're still in the faith. And I came back because that was ingrained in me. And I thankfully, I was raised that way, and God worked in me, and I came back, so it's very tricky. Human nature, it's just, you can't account for it all the time, but all you can do is raise them the best way that you know how. And like you said, absolutely raise them like they're going to leave you, and they're going to go out and experience the world on their own. That's a vital part of it. I think you're absolutely right.
Well, I'm seeing these, and again, we touched on it earlier, but I'm seeing these people that are prominent and influential that all have Second Amendment at their core or ties to them, and they're being completely unapologetic about their faith. Now, I'm not making a judgment or a discernment statement on whether they're good testimony or not, but you can look at like Chris Peranto, Sean Ryan, Nick Freitas, that level character. I mean, these people are very forward-facing about their faith in the Second Amendment community. And maybe I missed the message. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. But this is all stuff that seems to be far more prominent in the last 5 to 8 years than at any time before that. And I don't know, I'm not exactly sure why that is, but I am welcoming that. I don't have any problems with that at all. I'm very tickled to see the Second Amendment community, if you will, tie these things together in such a way that's meaningful.
Absolutely. And I think they go, honestly, I think faith and the Second Amendment, I don't mean to sound cheesy, but they kind of go hand in hand. You know, the rights that the Constitution granted us, or it didn't grant them, God granted them. The rights of that Constitution just guard them for us. But that mentality, I think, lends itself to faith, and it's interesting to see more and more people being prominent and being upfront about their faith.
All right, we're back. Sorry about that. I don't know if you'll notice this on the recording, but technology conspired to let us down. So there was a break there. Sam had started talking about the unapologetic nature of faith, and bang, he was gone from the studio. So take that for what you will. But anyway, let's get right back into it, Sam. So tell us where we were at here, and let's go.
Yeah, I was just talking about how it's very encouraging to see more of these guys being unapologetic about their faith, and it's interesting though. I've noticed this is something in the last 5, 6 years that I've been kind of in self-improvement and back into faith and all that stuff. It's interesting because there's quite a few people that I've watched on social media where you watch their self-improvement journey, and they're trying to be better men and to better themselves and for their families and their communities. And then they just kind of find their way back into faith. It's like, oh, that's because that's part of it. That's the natural, like, if you want to be a better man, read the Bible. That's God created men. Like, what better place to get encouragement and guidance is there from the man, the God that created us, so that's super encouraging to see a lot more people being so bold about that. And I think that's what we as men need to be doing is to be bold for our Christian faith. And being this is a two-way podcast, we need to be unapologetic about and bold about our rights as well. So I think those are both very important things.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I want to switch gears here, but before we do that, I one anecdotal story and then something I wanted to work in here. My daughter was set up on a date by a boy or whatever else, or some local friends, and this young man didn't really have the strength to ask her out. Didn't have any idea where they should go out together or what they should do. And he barely would speak. Now, listen, I understand. Well, I don't. I've never been shy, but I can understand what shyness might be, and it's different for each person. But it became obvious over the time that these two kids were together for a few different experiences that he wasn't prepared for what he was doing or was what I would ordinarily characterize as weak, and so we went through this. Now, granted, these are teenagers. There's only so much strength that they're going to have, right? I understand that. But when my daughter and I talked about it afterwards, a number of months afterwards, rather, I said, do you remember such and such? She's like, yeah. And I said, what did you think? She's like, he wasn't, he wasn't very take charge. He wasn't very definitive on anything. And he was just, like, yeah, I'll do whatever. And I said, listen, I don't mean to suggest to you that he's not a fine young man. I'm sure that he is in his own regard, right? But what I need you to understand is the world is being destroyed, and I mean destroyed, by weak men. So the fact that you were able to pick up on whatever you needed to pick up on because he wasn't ready yet, or he wasn't the right person, or maybe he will be the right person in the future. You may rekindle a relationship and this person be fantastic. Those things are always possible. But I'm glad that you recognized that this wasn't the right person for you at this time. moved on to something else, and I'm tickled about that. Now, it isn't like she's a dating fiend, that she's got a lot of experience, which doesn't bother me much as a dad. I will say that, but
Yep.
but she seems like she's making some decent choices, and she's no different than anybody else. She gets her heart broke a little bit, and she's also got some fun experiences too. But she recognized this wasn't working, and so this is a bad angle. We shouldn't push it. It's kind of like you're watching Top Gun, and Iceman's above Maverick, and you're just like, I could take the shot right here. Ice is pushing this bad angle, right? So Ice is pushing this bad angle. What happens? He finally veers off, and what happens as a result of pushing this bad angle? All kinds of calamity. Goose dies. So when you push a bad angle, Goose is going to die. I say stuff like that to my kids all the time. Like, we didn't understand what you just said. I'm like, well, watch a movie, okay? Anyway, but the other thing that I wanted to mention real quick, I always forget to do this on the front end, but I try and work it in. The reason that we're doing this and that we're able to do this is because of IFC's trusted partners. So if you navigate to Iowa Firearms Coalition in your browser, you'll end up on our site. And prominently at the top is a tab for the trusted partners. And those are businesses that have decided that they're going to offer a discount or a tangible good as a perk of membership at IFC. And what we're trying to do is to build the IFC membership up to such a level that you'd be absolutely nutty if you didn't participate, because of all the discounts and the goods that you'd have coming back that would far outweigh your cost of admission, so to speak. So we encourage people to go there, use the people that are supporting you and helping us. To be a trusted partner costs almost nothing. I think it's like $50 a year. And then you need to relay something of value over to the members. But we want people to go do that. And it's obvious that these people care about you because they're willing to extend their hand out and say, hey, I'm willing to do this for you regardless of who you are, because we support the community. So always support the people that are supporting you. With that, I'm going to ask Sam, what's something about you, or you can make it about you or your business, but what's something about you or your business that people don't know that you'd like to relay over to them? Something you want them to know that they don't.
Oofta. Something that they don't know. That's an interesting question. I'm actually that's a hard question because I'm really kind of an open book when it comes to my business. I try to do lives and get my face in front of people on a fairly regular basis. I'm not quite sure how to answer that one, but I would say, I'm an open book. I know that there's a lot of guys that don't really know what they want to do with their firearms or whatever. And if you got questions, call and ask me. I am glad to sit down and chat with you, stop in the shop, whatever it is. I pride myself on being the kind of shop that guys can just walk into and hang out for a little bit and have a conversation. And I do the same with Whiskey Worship. I try to have an open door policy. So I guess that would be my thing is don't be afraid to reach out, start a conversation with me. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be about guns. I mean, hey, I got a question about this. I saw you talking about it. Has nothing to do with business or whatever. If we're interested in having a conversation about Christ, whatever it is, I'm more than happy to do that. So feel free to reach out to me whenever.
That's absolutely fantastic. My wife knows this now because we've talked about it routinely, but every now and then somebody will start asking me, well, I noticed that you're very, forward about your faith, and you're a religious person. I'm like, I wouldn't say that. Like, what do you mean? I said, I'm not a religious person in any way. I'm a Christian. There's a distinct difference, So you gotta gauge and help the expectations in that conversation right out of the chute. But then I'm like, I never would have guessed it. You wouldn't have been able to convince me 10 years ago that a whole bunch of discipleship would take place in my shop, in this little dumpy shop. It's not real big, I don't know what it is. 1,200 square feet. You know what I'm saying? It's not a huge place. And I wouldn't have believed in a million years that that was going to happen. But there are some really frank and forward conversations, very caring conversations. Some of them have tears, dude. I mean, that's the nature of what some of these things are. But there's laughter and everything in between. But you wouldn't have convinced me that I'd been like that 10 years ago. And maybe you're saying the same thing, Sam. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as Christians, we're called to use our businesses not just to further ourself on this earth, but to further the message. And that's what I'm trying to do with Schiwerks, is use it for not only just for that, but to have guys, come in and talk about their mental health or whatever it is, and that's what I feel called to grow Schiwerks into. And absolutely, that's what I'm trying to do with it.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to ask this question because sometimes it could be fun. I asked this question. The question is this, and so I'll explain what's going on here and give you a minute to ponder it. But do you have a hidden talent? And while you're thinking about that, I blurted that out. I haven't asked a lot of the guests this, but some. I was interviewing John Tigan. They call him Tig from, you've seen him in Benghazi and all 13 hours, all the stuff. Anyway, he's come out to Iowa a few times. He's a really nice gentleman. I've talked to him occasionally, sent him the occasional text, just a genuinely nice guy. And he's running for office in Colorado Springs, and we have got property not far from there. So I pop through and I'll visit from time to time. Anyway, I asked him that, and he said, like, what do you talk about? I said, like, well, for example, I happen to be an accomplished shower singer. And we got to laughing about it. And he said, well, I guess that would be my superpower. And I'm like, really? And then he divulges to me that he has been emboldened from his singing in the shower to take it to the next level. And the guy produced and put out a CD. He's like, yeah, actually it was released last week. I'm like, get out of here with that. I said, you sing? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, do you sing well? He's like, I think I sing well enough. So anyway, I downloaded, I can't remember. I got iTunes, something. I downloaded. I'm like, this guy isn't too bad. I did not see that coming. So, do you have a hidden talent, Sam?
Oh boy, I guess you could call it that. I can juggle. Fun fact. I can absolutely juggle. Yeah.
Prove it.
What do we got here? I don't know if I have any tennis balls laying around, but I'll tell you what, I'll find some balls when we're done with this, and I'll send you a quick video of me juggling just to prove it to you.
Okay, do this for me. Do this. Okay, so if you're willing, so juggle for a little bit, put that on your and out on social media and tag IFC in it and let them know that you've got a Warrior Wednesday podcast that's going to be coming out in a little bit, and this segues nicely into that. How about let's do that?
Absolutely, I can certainly do that.
All right, thanks, old buddy. All right, was there anything else you want to talk about or cover while we're here? We got a few minutes left.
I guess I have a one question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You are obviously a backbone of the gun community in Iowa with IFC and all that stuff. What is one thing that you wished business owners such as myself knew or were better at when it comes to Iowa Firearms Coalition and gun rights in Iowa?
Ooh. How much time have you got?
All day.
Well, there are some things that I think that I would like to see businesses do on multiple levels. And maybe it's about building a little bit more of the commune in the word community. I think that we could do a much better job about that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a situation where IFC is a leader there, although I think that they can be. I think there's room for that to help these people find a communal place or a communal way. But I would like to see businesses that are Second Amendment friendly go to NRA and sign up for their what is it that they call it? Oh, golly, it's escaping me now that I need to know it. Second Amendment Activist Center, I think it is. And basically by doing that, you're saying, yeah, hey, put me on the list at NRA site. And if you're wondering about these things and you need somebody close to where you're at, pop down the street to Schiwerks and knock on the door, and they'll visit with you about the Second Amendment. They'll talk to you in their own words, and they'll they'll offer themselves as a resource to you. I would like to see businesses sign up for that, because not only will it send people their way, but it helps with having somebody right there in your neighborhood that you can find on this map in order to go talk to understand it, maybe to integrate, to get involved in other stuff. So I think that that's a low or no cost way to do something there. I don't believe it costs you a nickel to be part of that network. I would like to see businesses that are willing and able become one of IFC's trusted partners. We kind of set that up with the AARP model in mind, Sam, so where it doesn't cost you much to do it. I'm only asking for $50 a year as entrance or membership into it, so to speak, and then offer something. I mean, even if it's a free cap or something small or keychains, it doesn't matter. Do whatever it is that you want, like discount something tangible for IFC members. I think that will be helpful, and that will be huge. What I would like to move on to and also see are methods to make the Second Amendment a little bit more prominent and mainstream, because we've worked very hard against how we've been propagandized. But I'm telling you, for 40 or more years in the public school realm, the Second Amendment has been villainized wholesale. And so we've got to push back on that with supporting of the local scholastic clubs, whether people are out there shooting clays or SAS, the Scholastic Action Shooting program. So that's 22s often, pistol, rifle. All those things can be aided by local businesses or pushed forth by local businesses. I think that would be great. I don't know if you paid any attention. You might not know this, but my daughter was selected to go to the NRA Yes program last year. That's the Youth Education Summit out in DC. And the local Friends of NRA fundraisers and the dinners that you go to and the banquets, right? They have a pot of money that they raise, that keep for Iowa-centric things in Iowa. Each state has that respectively, right? So they decided that she was worthy of funding to go there. So they paid for her trip to go do that. And out there, she had a tremendous time, whatever. So they selected, I think, 36 people in the nation to go. And it's rarely more than that. Okay. Well, she gets out there and she meets a friend from Florida. And this Florida friend says, I just got back from the NRA Whittington Center in Raton, New Mexico. And I was there for 2 weeks at adventure camp. And you've absolutely got to go, that you'd love it. So they shoot everything that you can imagine: bows, muzzleloader, 50 BMG, rifle, pistol, everything. I mean, everything that you can shoot, they shoot. Campfire cooking, cast iron cooking, overnights in the mountains, in a tent, whatever else, that kind of stuff, all of it. Very, very inclusive, very, very big deal, right? Well, she comes back and she says, I really, really want to do this. My friend from Florida told me it was great. And so I looked it up and I'm like, well, this is fantastic. How are you going to pay for it? She's like, I kind of thought you'd pay for it. I'm like, well, you thought wrong. I pay for everything. I said, it's high time you started paying for something, but I'll make it easy for you. I'll figure out a way to have you do the work and you fund your own trip. Yes, Mom and I'll write the check, but you're paying us back. And so she did that. So she cleaned guns in my shop. I brought the guns in, tore them down in little pieces, brought them in on my books, put them over here in her bench, and she spit polished them. I put them back together, test shot them, whatever. It was all upscale, legit, right? And I didn't charge anything for it. And she did $50 a gun. And so she needed $1,300. And then she raised closer to $2,000. And I said, that's fine. You can do that. You better stop orders now because you've gone over your goal. You can use this money for your travel expenses to get there and back. Tell your donors this, and I'm sure it'll be fine. So that's what she's doing. She just got back. She's writing an article about it. But when we were driving back together, we were talking. I asked her, I said, do you have any friends that you think that would like to do this? And she said, yeah, some. And I said, okay, what would be the holdup? Well, not everybody travels as much as our family does. They might not feel comfortable sending their kid halfway across the nation for 2 weeks. I said, okay, I understand that. Anything else? She's like, yeah, the money. A lot of kids' families might not have the $2,000 to send them out there. Mm-hmm. And she said, it's too bad we can't do something about that. I said, well, maybe we can. I said, maybe if we had a bit greater handle on Second Amendment friendly businesses, they would be able to offer scenarios where you need to earn $2,000 to pay the $1,300 for the adventure camp and some money to fly or drive you there. Yeah, we'll figure out $2,000 worth of work for you. I mean, Sam, we're in an agricultural state. I mean, it isn't very hard to find a farmer that says, yeah, we rotate pigs routinely and somebody's got to stand there for 2 days with the power washer and wash all these stalls out. It's not fun work, but it's also not super hard or challenging. It just requires perseverance. I know that there are businesses out there that would probably say, this sounds like a fantastic program. If I could help the kids do this, I would. Or maybe whether it's adventure camp at the Whittington Center, or whether it's, hey, I need to earn some money so that I can fund my weapon and ammo into Scholastic Place. I want to go shoot shotgun, or I want to shoot pistols here. I think that there are businesses out there that, if they knew about things like this, would say yes to short-term employment or whatever else, so that they wouldn't be giving them, I'm not asking them for charity, although I'm sure that, that would be nice, but I'm asking them to say, hey, consider giving this kid some grunt work so that they could do something, to earn their stripes. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So in terms of what Second Amendment friendly businesses can do out there, the sky's the limit. I think that there need to be some organizers, if you will, to help with that. NRA's done a really good job of that in the past, but the truth of the matter is, and this is a chief criticism I have of NRA, I work with them routinely, I talk with them daily. I don't think in any way that they communicate well or thoroughly all the things that they do. So I'm sure there are mechanisms for that out there, but it's not being handled. It's not being done. So I think that we need to step up and do a little bit more of that ourselves, to connecting Second Amendment friendly businesses with the local needs and the local help that they can provide. And you know how this works. You invest a little bit in a kid, and you form a relationship, and there's a sense of pride, and there's a sense of accomplishment that go along with that, that are really, really good life lessons apart from the Second Amendment or from business. It's just good to say, I've got a goal, I'm willing to work for it, I got compensated, and as a reward, I experienced this, this, and this. And it becomes a force multiplier for growing a better crop of kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you asked the short question, I gave you the long answer, but what do you think about what I've said? Because this isn't something you and I've discussed before.
No, it's not. I think that's a great idea, and I think it'd be a great way to get the firearms a little bit more mainstream, especially in the younger community. I think that's important. To a lot of people, I didn't grow up with guns at all. I had a BB gun, and that was about it. And I remember a few of my friends had 22s, and it was like this magical thing. It's like, and I think it's important to start connecting with the younger generation a little bit more, and to normalize it, because there's, they're going to hear the other side of it, and all the guns are scary and all this stuff. So I think that's important. And I think that's a fantastic way to do it, is to get them into areas like, our shops, and put them to work with them, so they can see and they can experience that.
Yeah.
And you get the kids in there doing that, and you're going to create an ally in the Second Amendment industry for life. And I think that's a fantastic idea. Absolutely.
Now what we need is for the people listening out there that are saying, nodding their head yes, saying, yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. Now we need a volunteer to step forward and say, yeah, I will volunteer at IFC in order to spearhead that program, and see if we can bring some of those people together, because that's the only way that this is going to get done. If somebody raises their hand and say, yeah, you know what, I see the value in that. I think I could carve out a couple hours a week to do that. So, it's great that we can conceptualize and bounce ideas off one another. But what really has to happen next is somebody say, yeah, I'm willing to pitch in there and take this from concept to practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so hard to find the right person nowadays for stuff like that. Just everybody's so dang busy.
I know.
We've filled up our lives with so much that finding that right person for something like this is extremely difficult. But I don't know the right answer there.
Well, we did a video a couple weeks ago with a My buddy Micah Cope, he goes to church with me, and he's volunteering in IFC now to kind of do a fundraising director. He's helping do all the things that are part of it as a separate segment under IFC's umbrella, because we're throttled. We can't have that stuff on our site anymore. We can't promote it. We can't put it out there because we immediately get dinged as if we're we get dinged as if we're selling guns inappropriately. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that those things, while they're completely legal and they're completely ethical, they violate a lot of people's user agreement or their policies, right? But he agreed to do that, and he's spearheading that program, and we're going to make that work. So every now and then, you run across someone that says, "Hey, I'm willing to be involved. I don't know how I'll fit, but you can use me." And we just sit down and talk and say, "Well, come on in, take a look around, be part of us for a little while. And when you find a spot that you're comfortable with, or here are some things that we need help with, do any of them appeal to you? We pick up a volunteer from time to time." I think that's the way that it generally works.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going back to creating that community of guys. That's how you're gonna meet those volunteers and the guys that are willing to step forward and actually do something.
I agree. Did you have any other questions? I'm glad you asked me. Thanks, by the way.
Yeah, no, that was pretty much it. I think that covers it.
Okay. Well, Sam from Schiwerks. Again, Schiwerks. You type that in your internet browser. I'm confident that there isn't a lot of competition for that particular name. You're going to
There is
the
not.
right spot. So check him out. World-class premier Cerakote finishes, no question about that. It's fun to work with people that are really, really good at what they do. But it's, you've used the word blessing a few times today. I think it's just as fun, if not a blessing, to work with people that I happen to like personally. So I would encourage you guys to check him out. Anything else before we go, old buddy?
That is it. I thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed the conversation. It's been awesome. So thank you.
All right. Take care out there. And for the people local to him, it sounds like, what'd you call it? Whiskey and Worship?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
We do it once a month.
Fantastic. Check it out. I'm curious to see how that goes. Who knows? Maybe I'll make the trek at some point.
I hope you do. That would be amazing.
All right. Thank you guys again. Schiwerks, Schiwerks. Put it in your internet browser. Check him out. Thanks so much.
Thank you.